Welcome to my mixed media masterboard process part 1. This will have the first 3 steps, and the next steps will be available in parts 2 and 3. First, you want to get together a base for your masterboard. I like to use manila file folders. Here I'm just cutting it in half so that it's easier to work with. And then you want to select some paper scraps. I had a lot of strips available because I had been making signatures for journals, so I decided I was going to use strips for my base. Here I'm just using a glue stick to glue these strips of paper to my file folder, and I'm going to cover the file folder in basically a paper collage. You can use glue stick for this. You can use other glues like Mod Podge or even Collage Medium. I found that glue stick works just fine for this. It doesn't really matter how you place the paper on the file folder. It's going to be somewhat covered later, so it's just to give some additional texture to the background. I like to use a variety of different kinds of paper. You see I'm using sheet music strips, dictionary strips, even scrapbook paper, ledger paper, atlas pages, book pages, all sorts of stuff. Next, I'm going to use shorter strips to cover up the last small bits of the folder that are showing. Like I said, I want to cover that folder completely. Here I'm just going to trim some of those longer pieces of paper. The second major step in this process is to add gesso. We're going to add a thin layer of gesso over the paper collage using a paintbrush. This helps seal in the papers and give it a little bit of tooth for the liquid mediums that we're going to be adding later in the process. You want this to be a thin but somewhat consistent layer. Let that dry before moving to the next step. The final step for this video is going to be stenciling. I'm using oxide ink here, which is water reactive, but if you want to use something permanent, feel free. I'm just going to stencil this around the board in somewhat random places, and I like to do this with a neutral color, but you can do it with whatever color you want. And that's it for part 1. Join me next time for part 2.